The door swung open and Ellie froze, her paintbrush mid-stroke, dripping crimson onto the canvas. Maya stood there wide-eyed, her sketchbook clutched to her chest, as if she'd stumbled into a secret world. In that heartbeat, the air in the tiny New York apartment thickened with something unspoken, something alive. Ellie had always been the quiet one, the 24-year-old artist who preferred the company of her canvases to people. Her life was a careful rhythm of solitude, days spent mixing colors in her cramped bedroom, nights lost in the hum of the city outside her window. She'd moved to Brooklyn a year ago, chasing a dream of art school, and shared the apartment with her roommate, Sarah, a loud, cheerful med student who was rarely home. It was a simple life, predictable until Maya, Sarah's younger sister, arrived for a summer visit. Maya, 22, was a whirlwind of energy, a budding photographer with a laugh that could light up a room. She'd shown up 3 days ago, her suitcase stuffed with bohemian skirts and a camera slung around her neck. Ellie had barely noticed her at first, too absorbed in her latest painting, a chaotic swirl of reds and blues meant to capture the ache of unrequited love. But Maya had a way of slipping into spaces, her curiosity pulling her into Ellie's orbit like a moth to a flame. That evening, Ellie was alone in the apartment, her music softly playing, a melancholic indie track that matched her mood. She was lost in her work when Maya burst in, no knock, no warning. "Oh crap, I'm so sorry," Maya stammered, her cheeks flushing as she backed toward the door. "I thought this was Sarah's room." Ellie's heart raced, not from annoyance but from the way Maya's eyes lingered on the canvas, then on her. "It's fine," Ellie said, her voice softer than she intended. "You can stay, if you want." Maya hesitated, then stepped inside, her skirt brushing the floor. "This is wow," she said, her gaze sweeping over the half-finished painting. "It's like you're painting a feeling." Her words hit Ellie like a spark, igniting something she hadn't felt in years, a desire to be seen. They talked for hours that night, the conversation flowing as easily as the wine Maya pulled from Sarah's stash. Maya spoke of her dreams to capture the world through her lens, her fear of never being enough. Ellie shared fragments of her own story, her small-town upbringing, the parents who didn't understand her art, the loneliness that clung to her like a second skin. With every word, the space between them shrank, their knees brushing under the table, their laughter intertwining. By midnight, Maya was sprawled on Ellie's bed, flipping through a sketchbook of her own photos, candid shots of strangers, sunsets, and city streets. Ellie leaned closer, her breath catching as she noticed the curve of Maya's neck, the way her hair fell like a dark river over her shoulder. "You're really good," Ellie said, her voice barely above a whisper. Maya turned, her brown eyes locking onto Ellie's. "You think so?" she asked, and there was a vulnerability there, a question that went beyond her art. Ellie nodded, unable to look away. The room felt too small, the air too warm, and for a moment, Ellie thought Maya might lean in, might close the distance. But then Sarah's key rattled in the lock, and the spell broke. Maya scrambled to her feet, laughing nervously. "I should go," she said, but her eyes lingered on Ellie, promising more. The next morning, Ellie woke to a note slipped under her door. "Meet me at the pier tonight. 8 p.m. Her heart stuttered. She spent the day distracted, her paintbrush trembling as she tried to focus. Maya was leaving in 2 weeks, back to her life in Chicago. This was temporary, a fleeting summer spark. But Ellie couldn't shake the feeling that something bigger was unfolding. At the pier, the Brooklyn skyline glittered against the dusk. Maya was there, her camera dangling from her neck, her smile brighter than the city lights. "I wanted to show you something," she said, leading Ellie to a quiet spot by the water. She pulled out her camera and showed Ellie a photo, a candid shot of her painting, her face soft with concentration. "You're beautiful when you're lost in it," Maya said, her voice low. Ellie's breath caught. No one had ever called her beautiful like that, with such quiet certainty. She wanted to say something, anything, but the words stuck in her throat. Instead, she reached for Maya's hand, her fingers brushing against hers. Maya didn't pull away. They stood there, hands entwined, the city humming around them. Ellie felt the weight of her fears, her fear of rejection, of being too much or not enough. But Maya's touch was steady, grounding her. For the first time, Ellie let herself hope. The next few days were a blur of stolen moments. Maya would linger in Ellie's room watching her paint, her laughter filling the silence. Ellie found herself smiling more, her guarded heart cracking open. They shared coffee in the mornings, their shoulders brushing as they walked through the city. Each touch, each glance felt like a step toward something inevitable. But doubt crept in. Ellie caught Maya staring at her phone one evening, her face tight with worry. "Everything okay?" Ellie asked, her stomach twisting. Maya sighed, setting the phone down. "It's my parents. They're not exactly thrilled about me being here. They think I'm wasting my time chasing photography." She paused, her voice dropping. "And they'd lose it if they knew about this." She gestured vaguely between them. Ellie's heart sank. She knew what Maya meant. Knew the weight of unspoken truths. She'd faced it herself, coming out to her own family, the silence that followed. "Do you regret it?" Ellie asked, her voice barely audible. Maya's eyes met hers, fierce and certain. "No. Not this. Not you." That night they sat on the fire escape, the city sprawling below them. Maya leaned her head on Ellie's shoulder, and Ellie felt the world shift. "I've never felt like this before," Maya whispered. "Like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." Ellie wanted to freeze that moment, to hold on to it forever. But the clock was ticking. Maya's visit was ending, and with it the fragile bubble they'd built. Ellie didn't know if she could survive losing her. As the first week ended, Ellie realized she was falling hard and fast for a girl who might slip away. And with that realization came a fear that threatened to unravel everything. The air on the fire escape was cool, but Ellie's skin burned where Maya's head rested against her shoulder. The city's pulse thrummed below. Car horns, distant laughter, the hum of possibility. But all Ellie could hear was the soft rhythm of Maya's breathing. She wanted to tell Maya everything, to confess the way her heart raced every time their eyes met, but fear clamped her words shut. The next morning, Ellie woke to the smell of coffee and Maya's laughter drifting from the kitchen. She found her roommate, Sarah, flipping pancakes while Maya perched on the counter, her camera in hand, snapping candid shots. "You're gonna blind me with that flash," Sarah teased, tossing a dish towel at her sister. Maya dodged, grinning, and her eyes flicked to Ellie, softening in a way that made Ellie's chest ache. "Morning, sleepyhead," Maya said, her voice warm. "Want some coffee?" Ellie nodded, trying to ignore the flutter in her stomach. She took the mug Maya offered, their fingers brushing, and for a moment, the kitchen felt like the only place in the world. Sarah, oblivious, rambled about her hospital rotation, but Ellie barely heard her. All she could see was Maya. Her messy bun, her bright eyes, the way she seemed to glow. The day unfolded in a haze of summer heat. Maya dragged Ellie to a flea market in Williamsburg, her enthusiasm infectious. They wandered through stalls of vintage clothes and handmade jewelry, Maya's camera clicking constantly. "Hold still," she said, aiming the lens at Ellie. "You've got this light about you." Ellie blushed, ducking her head. "You're ridiculous." "No, I'm serious," Maya said, lowering the camera. Her gaze was steady, searching. "You're like a painting I can't stop looking at." Ellie's breath hitched. She wanted to reach out to pull Maya close, but the crowd pressed around them, and the moment slipped away. Still, Maya's words lingered, a quiet promise that followed them through the day. That evening, they ended up at a small jazz club, the kind of place where the music wrapped around you like a warm blanket. Maya leaned close, her shoulder brushing Ellie's, as the saxophone wailed a soulful melody. "This is what I love about New York," Maya whispered. "It's like the city's alive, telling its own story." Ellie nodded, but her mind was elsewhere. On the way Maya's hand rested inches from hers, on the question she couldn't shake. What happens when you leave? She pushed the thought away, focusing on the music, on the way Maya's eyes sparkled in the dim light. But the tension couldn't stay buried. Later, as they walked home, Maya grew quiet, her steps slowing. "I got an email from my advisor today," she said finally, her voice tight. "They're offering me a spot in a photography program in Paris. It starts in the fall." Ellie's heart plummeted. "Paris," she managed, her voice barely steady. "That's amazing." Maya stopped walking, turning to face her. "Is it? I mean, it's everything I've wanted, but," she trailed off, her eyes searching Ellie's. "It's so far away." The unspoken hung between them. Maya's departure, the distance, the fragile thing they were building. Ellie wanted to say stay, but the word felt selfish, heavy. Instead, she forced a smile. "You should go. It's your dream." Maya's face fell just for a moment before she nodded. Yeah, maybe. The rest of the walk was silent, the city's noise filling the space where words should have been. Back at the apartment, Sarah was already asleep, and Maya lingered in the living room, her sketchbook open on her lap. Ellie hesitated, then sat beside her, their thighs touching. Show me something, Ellie said softly, nodding at the sketchbook. Maya flipped to a page of photos from the flea market. Ellie laughing, Ellie holding a vintage lamp, Ellie looking at her with unguarded warmth. I can't stop taking pictures of you, Maya admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. It's like I need to hold on to this. Ellie's throat tightened. She reached for Maya's hand, her fingers trembling. Then hold on to it, she said, her voice raw. Hold on to me. Maya's eyes widened and then she leaned in, her lips brushing Ellie's in a kiss that felt like a confession. It was soft at first, tentative, then deeper, urgent, as if they were trying to say everything they couldn't put into words. Ellie's hands found Maya's waist, pulling her closer, and for a moment the world disappeared. When they pulled apart, breathless, Maya rested her forehead against Ellie's. I'm scared, she whispered. This feels too big. Me too, Ellie admitted. But I don't want to stop. They stayed like that, tangled together on the couch, until the first light of dawn crept through the windows. Ellie felt like she was standing on the edge of something vast, something that could break her or make her whole. The next few days were a dance of closeness and caution. They stole kisses in the hallway, shared quiet moments on the fire escape. But the shadow of Maya's departure loomed larger. Ellie painted with a frenzy, pouring her fear and longing into every stroke, while Maya's camera never left her hands, as if she could capture their time together and keep it forever. One night, Sarah caught them holding hands in the kitchen, her eyes narrowing. What's going on here? She asked, her tone sharp. Ellie froze, but Maya squeezed her hand, her voice steady. We're figuring it out, she said. And I'm not hiding it. Sarah's expression softened, but there was a flicker of worry in her eyes. Just be careful, okay? You're both intense. Ellie knew what Sarah meant. This wasn't just a summer fling. It was a collision of hearts, one that could leave them both shattered. But as she looked at Maya, her resolve hardened. She wasn't ready to let go. Ellie's paintbrush trembled as she stood before her canvas, the colors blurring into a storm of reds and purples. It was late, the apartment quiet except for the soft hum of the city outside. But her mind was loud with Maya, her laugh, her touch, the way her kiss had rewritten everything Ellie thought she knew about herself. The fear of losing her was a constant ache, sharper now with every day that brought Maya's departure closer. The past week had been a whirlwind. Maya had become a fixture in Ellie's world, slipping into her room to watch her paint, leaving notes tucked into her sketchbooks, pulling her into spontaneous adventures across the city. They danced in a rain-soaked park, shared ice cream on a rooftop, and spent hours talking about dreams they were too scared to chase. Each moment felt like a gift, but also a countdown. That morning, Maya had been quieter than usual, her camera untouched on the kitchen table. Ellie found her on the fire escape, staring at the skyline, her knees pulled to her chest. What's wrong? Ellie asked, sitting beside her. Maya didn't look at her. I told my parents about Paris, she said, her voice flat. They're thrilled. Said it's the right path for me. She paused, her fingers twisting in her skirt. They don't know about you. Ellie's stomach twisted. She'd known this was coming. Maya's conservative family, the weight of their expectations. Ellie had faced it herself, the cold rejection when she came out at 19, the way her parents had looked at her like she was a stranger. Do you want to tell them? She asked carefully. Maya's eyes met hers, shimmering with unshed tears. I want to be brave enough, but I'm not sure I am. Ellie reached for her hand, her heart pounding. You don't have to do it alone, she said. I'm here. Maya's grip tightened, but her smile was fragile. You make me want to be fearless, she whispered. But what if I mess this up? What if I hurt you? The question hung between them, heavy with truth. Ellie wanted to say it wouldn't happen, that they could weather anything, but the words felt hollow. Instead, she pulled Maya close, letting the warmth of her body chase away the doubt. That night, they went to a queer art gallery opening in Manhattan. A suggestion from Maya to get out of our heads. The space was vibrant, filled with bold paintings and sculptures, the air buzzing with laughter and conversation. Maya's energy returned, her camera clicking as she captured the scene. Ellie watched her, marveling at how she seemed to belong everywhere and nowhere at once. At one point, Maya grabbed Ellie's hand, pulling her toward a painting of two women embracing, their forms blending into a swirl of color. "This reminds me of us," Maya said, her voice soft but certain. Ellie's heart swelled, but before she could respond, a woman approached. A friend of Maya's from Chicago, in town for the summer. "Maya! Oh my God, I didn't know you'd be here!" she exclaimed, pulling Maya into a hug. Her eyes flicked to Ellie, curious. "Who's this?" Maya hesitated, her hand still in Ellie's. "This is Ellie," she said, her voice steady but laced with something Ellie couldn't place. "She's my friend." The word hit Ellie like a punch. Friend. She forced a smile, nodding as Maya's friend chattered on, but inside she was reeling. Was that all they were? Had she misread everything? Later, as they walked home, Ellie couldn't hold it in. "Friend?" she asked, her voice sharper than she intended. "Is that what I am to you?" Maya stopped, her face paling. "Ellie, no, that's not," I panicked. I didn't know what to say. "You could have said the truth," Ellie said, her voice breaking. "Or is that too hard?" Maya's eyes filled with tears. "It's not about you. It's about me. I'm not out, okay? Not to everyone. And I'm terrified of what happens when I am." Ellie wanted to be understanding, to hold Maya's fear gently, but the hurt was too raw. "I can't keep being your secret," she said. "I've done that before, and it broke me." Maya reached for her, but Ellie stepped back. "I need time," she said, her voice barely audible. She turned and walked away, the city swallowing her footsteps. The next day, Ellie threw herself into her painting, the canvas becoming a battleground for her emotions. She didn't see Maya, who stayed in Sarah's room, her laughter replaced by silence. Sarah noticed the tension, cornering Ellie in the kitchen. "What's going on with you two?" she asked, her voice gentle but firm. Ellie's throat tightened. "I don't know if I can do this," she admitted. "I'm falling for her, Sarah. But she's leaving, and she's not even sure she can be honest about us." Sarah sighed, her expression softening. "Maya's always been scared of disappointing people, but I've seen the way she looks at you. She's never been like this with anyone." Ellie wanted to believe her, but the doubt lingered. That night she found a note under her door. "I'm sorry. Can we talk? M." Her heart ached, torn between hope and fear. She met Maya on the pier, the same spot where they'd first held hands. Maya looked small, her eyes red-rimmed. "I messed up," she said, her voice trembling. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I'm figuring out who I am, and it's messy." Ellie nodded, her own eyes stinging. "I know it's hard, but I need you to choose me, Maya. Not just in private. Out there too." Maya stepped closer, her hand reaching for Ellie's. "I want to," she whispered. "I'm trying." They stood there, the city lights reflecting on the water, and Ellie felt the pull of hope again. But the clock was still ticking, and Paris loomed like a shadow. Ellie lay awake, the city's hum a distant echo as she stared at the ceiling. Maya's words from the pier, "I'm trying," played on a loop in her mind, both a lifeline and a weight. She wanted to believe in them, in her, but the uncertainty gnawed at her, sharp and relentless. The next morning Maya was waiting in the kitchen, her camera on the table, her eyes searching Ellie's. "I want to show you something," she said, her voice quiet but steady. She led Ellie to her room, where a series of photos was spread across the bed, images of Ellie, of them, capturing moments Ellie hadn't realized Maya had seen. Ellie laughing in the rain, Ellie painting, their hands intertwined on the fire escape. Each photo was a piece of their story, raw and beautiful. "I've been working on this," Maya said, her voice trembling. "It's for a portfolio, but it's also for me. For us. I want the world to see this, see you." Ellie's breath caught. The photos were more than art. They were a declaration, a step toward the bravery Maya was struggling to find. "They're incredible," Ellie said, her voice thick. "You're incredible." Maya's smile was tentative, hopeful. "I'm going to tell my parents," she said. "About us. About who I am. I don't know how they'll take it, but I need to do this." Ellie's heart swelled, but fear lingered. "Are you sure?" she asked. You don't have to. I want to, Maya interrupted, her eyes fierce. I'm tired of hiding. They spent the day together, the tension easing as they fell back into their rhythm. They wandered through Central Park, Maya's camera clicking, Ellie's laughter spilling out as they chased each other through the grass. For a few hours the world felt simple, the future less daunting. But that evening everything shifted. Maya's phone rang, her mother's name flashing on the screen. She hesitated, then answered, her voice tight. Ellie sat across the room pretending to sketch, but every word felt like a stone in her chest. Yes, Mom, I'm still thinking about Paris, Maya said, her tone guarded. No, I'm not wasting my time here. The call ended abruptly, and Maya's face crumpled. She wants me to come home early, she said, her voice barely audible. She thinks I'm losing focus. Ellie's stomach dropped. What did you say? I told her I'm staying, Maya said, her voice stronger now. But she's not happy. She wants me to figure out my priorities. Ellie reached for her hand, her heart racing. And what are your priorities? Maya's eyes met hers, steady and sure. You. This. Us. The words were a bomb, but they couldn't erase the reality. Maya's parents were a force, their expectations a wall between her and the life she wanted. Ellie knew that wall too well. Her own family had built 1 year ago, one she'd never fully dismantled. The next day Maya Skyped her parents, Ellie waiting in the next room, her heart pounding. She couldn't hear the words, only the rise and fall of Maya's voice, sometimes sharp, sometimes breaking. When Maya emerged, her face was pale, her eyes red. They didn't take it well, she said, her voice hollow. They said I'm confused, that I need to come home and fix this. Ellie pulled her into a hug, feeling Maya tremble against her. I'm so proud of you, she whispered. No matter what they say, you're enough. Maya clung to her, her tears soaking Ellie's shirt. I don't know if I can do this, she said. What if I lose them? You won't lose me, Ellie said, her voice fierce. We'll figure this out together. The rest of the week was a tightrope walk. Maya threw herself into her photography, submitting her portfolio to the Paris program, but her heart wasn't in it. Ellie painted, her canvases growing bolder, each stroke a defiance against the fear that threatened to swallow them. They spent every moment together, as if time could be persuaded by their closeness. One night, Sarah threw a small party at the apartment, a mix of her med school friends and some of Maya's art school contacts. The room buzzed with laughter and music, but Ellie felt the weight of eyes on them. Maya's hand in hers, the way they leaned into each other. She caught whispers, curious glances, and for the first time she didn't care. Let them look. Let them see. Maya, too, seemed lighter, her smile brighter as she introduced Ellie to her friends. This is my girlfriend, she said, the words slipping out effortlessly. Ellie's heart soared, the world tilting into place. But the high didn't last. Later, as they cleaned up, Maya's phone buzzed with a text from her mother. Come home. We need to talk. The words were cold, final, and Maya's face fell. What are you going to do? Ellie asked, her voice barely steady. Maya shook her head, her eyes distant. I don't know. But I can't keep running from this. Ellie wanted to fight, to hold Maya there. But she knew this was bigger than them. Maya needed to face her family, her truth on her own terms. All Ellie could do was hope she'd come back. Ellie stood at her easel, the canvas blank, her hands frozen. Maya had been gone for 2 days, back in Chicago to face her parents, and the apartment felt hollow without her. Every creak of the floorboards, every hum of the city, was a reminder of the space she'd left behind. The past week had been a storm of emotions. After Maya's declaration at the party, my girlfriend, Ellie had felt invincible, like they could conquer anything. But the text from Maya's mother had shattered that illusion. Maya had left the next morning, her eyes red but determined. I need to do this, she'd said, kissing Ellie softly before boarding the train. I'll be back. I promise. Ellie clung to that promise, but doubt crept in. What if Maya's parents convinced her to stay? What if Paris pulled her away? She poured her fear into her art, but even that felt empty without Maya's laughter in the background. On the 3rd day, Sarah found Ellie staring at her phone, waiting for a message that hadn't come. She'll be okay, Sarah said, her voice gentle. Maya's stronger than she looks. Ellie nodded, but the words didn't ease the ache. She wandered to the pier that night, the place where they'd first held hands, hoping the city lights would ground her. Instead, they only reminded her of Maya's absence. When her phone finally buzzed, Ellie's heart leapt. It was a photo from Maya. A selfie in front of a Chicago skyline, her smile tentative but real. The caption read, "Miss you. Coming back tomorrow." Ellie's relief was overwhelming, tears blurring her vision as she typed back, "I'm here. Always." Maya returned the next evening, her suitcase heavier, her eyes tired but bright. Ellie met her at the station, pulling her into a hug that felt like coming home. "How did it go?" she asked, her voice trembling. Maya sighed, her hand finding Ellie's. "It was hard. They're not okay with it, not yet. But I told them I'm not changing who I am. And I told them about you." Ellie's breath caught. "And they need time," Maya said, her voice steady. "But I don't. I choose you, Ellie. I choose us." They walked back to the apartment, hands entwined, the city alive around them. Over the next few days they rebuilt their rhythm. But it was different now, stronger, more certain. Maya decided to defer the Paris program, choosing to stay in New York for the fall, to chase her photography dreams closer to Ellie. It wasn't a perfect solution, but it was theirs. One evening they sat on the fire escape, the city sprawling below. Maya held up her camera, showing Ellie a new photo. A shot of them kissing at the pier, the skyline glowing behind them. "This is my favorite," she said, her voice soft. "It's us exactly as we are." Ellie smiled, her heart full. "You're my favorite," she said, leaning in to kiss her. As summer faded into fall, Ellie and Maya faced the world together. There were still challenges, Maya's parents, the uncertainty of the future. But they faced them hand in hand. Ellie's canvases filled with color, Maya's photos captured their love, and the apartment became a home, not just a place. They weren't perfect and their story wasn't finished, but it was theirs. And in every brushstroke, every snapshot, they found a truth worth fighting for. Love, in all its messy, beautiful forms, was enough. Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe to get notifications about next videos.